Now then, to Antoine Semenyo, as this deal is progressing rapidly from Bournemouth to Manchester City. Let's go live to the Etihad Stadium, which is set to be his destination. Sani Radravajula is there for us. Sani, afternoon to you. What is the latest? How close are we to seeing Antoine Semenyo announced as a City player?
Well, we are getting very close, and Sky Sports News, we expect that Antoine Semenyo will be a Manchester City player by the weekend. He's having his medical in Manchester now. He flew over to Manchester early hours of this morning, so that is progressing. There's also been a development on the transfer fee for Semenyo. Originally, it was going to be £60 million with add-ons. That has now changed to £62.5 million guaranteed for Bournemouth, paid over 24 months, and then there are additional clauses and additional bonus payments there to around 1.5 million. So a slight reduction overall in that headline figure of 65, but it does mean Bournemouth gets slightly more at £62.5 million guaranteed. That winner, 89th minute against Spurs, on his birthday as well, 26 years old, 10 goals in his last 20 Premier League games this season. So he's had a fantastic season so far. So that move is progressing very well. And just one final detail on that, by the way, Bristol City fans will also be very happy at this. Bournemouth, who signed him from Bristol City a couple of seasons ago for £10.5 million, they have a 20% sell-on clause on any profit made. So doing the quick maths, they'll roughly receive around £10.4 million. So Bristol City fans essentially have sold Antoine Semenyo twice today in the way that he'll then move from Bournemouth to Manchester City. So good news all round for a player who's had a brilliant run of form and is signing off from Bournemouth in the perfect way too.
Sani, thank you very much. Let's continue our Semenyo chat then, shall we? We've got the Flying Frenchman, Chris Reedy, in the studios. Jules Laurent, you're very welcome here. Why do you think, firstly, Liverpool did not come in for Antoine Semenyo?
No, I think they were interested in him, like most of the top clubs in the Premier League. I think if you're Mikel Arteta and you asked him, do you want Semenyo in your squad, he would say yes. Same for Slot, same for Maresca or no Rosinho at Chelsea. Same for whoever will be on the bench at Manchester United. Same for Pep Guardiola. He's that good that if you have that money, if you can afford him, if he can give you another option, be another asset, you take him every single day. There's not a club in the Premier League that would say no to Semenyo. It's just that I think City were the quickest. I think the Guardiola chat with Semenyo was probably very convincing. He wants to go there. He wants to play for Guardiola for how long that is. And I think he makes a lot of sense for City to go and get him.
And Chris, as we know now, Manchester City's title surge is floundering a little bit. They dropped points again, 3 consecutive draws, the latest one against Brighton last night in the Premier League. Some interesting games to come. It remains to be seen when we see Antoine Semenyo's City debut, but they need points and they need those Semenyo goals quickly.
Well, yeah, that's a good point with the goals, and I think it's a good point from Jules as well, mentioning about Pep Guardiola and what he wants, because we know a lot of times he's mentioned in the past that there is a bit of a reliance on Erling Haaland, and when Erling Haaland doesn't score, who kind of fills in? Now, we know that Semenyo, Sani mentioned the numbers before, he's a really efficient player. That's a word that Arsene Wenger used to like when he talked about players who's kind of scored and gets assists. He's really efficient, he's really good on numbers. So if Erling Haaland isn't producing, Jeremy Doku, he's had a better season this year, but the numbers aren't quite up as much. Foden has gone a little bit off the ball, like you mentioned, those 3 draws recently, only 2 goals. Semenyo is someone who can come in straight away, Premier League proven, and get numbers.
Yeah, if you were watching earlier on Good Morning Transfers, Ashley Williams was in the studio with us. He played with Antoine Semenyo at Bristol City and said he was always destined for the top.
I played a year with him at Bristol City and he's a great lad, great boy, really down to earth and humble, good football player. You could see it in him then, you know, didn't know how high he'd go. I actually thought that someone would be showing more interest at the start of the season because he'd had such a good season last season. But to be fair to him, as I say, he's a good lad. He's got his head down. He's probably done even better in the first half of this season. Now, last night, unbelievable. You couldn't have wrote it any better.
I'm just thinking back to your time at Ashton Gate with him. Did you see this level of...
Academy graduate.
Had the potential to play in the Premier League. I love the way he's took the Premier League by storm. He just gets after it every game, whoever he's playing against, the top team, the bottom team, whatever. But he had a right and left foot. I don't know if he's right or left footed. He can hit it with both. Powerful, pacey, good lad, wanted to learn. Didn't play a lot that season at Bristol City, which was surprising. But you knew there was levels to him, and he's one of the nicest boys that you could have ever met coming along the way. So I'm just so pleased for him.
Big praise from Ashley Williams, Jules, and the prospect of Doku and Semenyo behind Haaland is quite scary for the title rivals.
Yeah, it is, and there will be a lot of options for Guardiola. If you think of Foden and Cherki, not all Doku, Semenyo, Foden and Cherki can play together with Haaland. I mean, I guess you can, but in terms of team balance, I think Guardiola will have to make choices. Don't forget Bernardo Silva, for example, or others. I think the great thing about Semenyo, there's two things for me. One is a pressing machine. And in this kind of new City, that evolution that we're seeing with City, or what Pep is trying to do in terms of having control, but also having that kind of intensity and pressing, that's what Pep Linders has arrived at the club as an assistant. He's the best for that. He's probably the best Premier League at pressing the ball right now. And the other thing is right foot, left foot. Ashley talked about it a little bit. I think he's had as many goals with his right than with his left. He can play on the right, on the left. He's the most two feet, is that what we say? Two-footed player? Two-footed player in the Premier League with Ryan Cherki, and City will have them both. So in terms of asset and what you could do with the Semenyo in your squad at that age, it's a great player to have.
Yeah, Crystal Palace and their boss, Oliver Glasner. Let's focus on him because he is saying that Marc Guehi will stay at the club during this transfer window. Liverpool remain interested in Guehi along with Manchester City, who are weighing up fast-tracking their summer plans to sign a centre-back after Joško Vardiol fractured his leg.
Every single player, I think, has there is a surprise where a club will sell him. So when you are Crystal Palace, maybe because we are not at the end of the food chain in football. So and I didn't say anything more. So for me, it was a little bit surprising what was made out of it, because it's exactly the same situation like in summer. I think that Marc will stay, but if Marc says I want to leave and the club pays massive money with 6 or 5 months left of contract, every player will leave, if you're playing for a club like Crystal Palace, because then you can't afford it. But I'm pretty sure our chairman will ask a very high price for him, and then let's see. And I don't know if Marc wants to leave. So right now, when I see him playing, when I see him training, when I see his commitment, when we are talking quite often together, then I think the fans can be really calm. But you never know what will happen in football.
Chris, you've been in a lot of Oliver Glasner press conferences, and quite clearly over the last few months, going right the way back to the summer when he was on the verge of Anfield, he's been questioned about Marc Guehi's future. He's probably sick of it, but it's changed a little bit, hasn't it? The tone from even last week, him saying, now I think he will stay.
Yeah, it's one of those clubs and press conferences that you go to and you're like, oh, God, I've got to ask the same thing again. But to be fair, you do get a different answer each time, which kind of shows the nature of this transfer with Marc Guehi. The first press conference I went to a few weeks ago, Glasner basically said, look, I don't know what's going to happen here, because essentially it can go a lot of different ways, and it can be one way one week and it can change another week as well. And that's just shown by the injuries that Man City have got. I think without this Joško Vardiol injury and Ruben Diaz as well, we might not be talking about this story. But the fact that's happened seems to have accelerated Manchester City's interest. We know Liverpool have got a long-term interest in Marc Guehi. We know how close that transfer was at the end of last season. And I think Guehi, he's quite an interesting character as well. He can be quite a mysterious kind of character when he talks about this kind of thing. That celebration when he scored against Arsenal a few weeks ago was quite an odd one. Being the captain of the club, he didn't really give it some. He's a really smart guy, Marc Guehi, and I think he'll be considering his options, which is why I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of left it to the end of the season. But we don't know what's going on in Marc Guehi's head. We were speaking with Jody Morris the other day, weren't we, Will, who knows him very well, who was kind of alluding to the fact that he's a really, really smart kid with a good family around him that might wait. It's just if Crystal Palace get tempted by an offer that they can't refuse, because he could go for nothing in the summer. If they get a really good offer from Manchester City or anyone else, that's when he might get pushed.
Jules, do you think there will be some other big European dogs twiddling their thumbs thinking, you guys think it's just between Liverpool and Manchester City? I mean, at PSG with your connections there. Yeah. So, I'm going to name just a whole list of them. Real Madrid, Barcelona, Inter Milan, Atletico Madrid, all apparently interested as well. How does this pan out? Bayern Munich would be a huge option.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any company there.
But in the summer, for free. I think that's the idea. There's none of those clubs, I think, are ready right now to spend 30 or 35 million on Marc Guehi. As good as he is, England international, everything you want, but who you can have for free in 5 months, who you can actually sign now in view of next season. those European clubs are not going to spend that kind of money. Now, this is for Liverpool if they think that it's an emergency, we need him now. Same for City, it's an emergency. Otherwise, you wait for the summer. And same for Marc Guehi to an extent. Of course, he can move now if he wants the Pep Guardiola project or the Arne Slot project, and the money, the extra money that he's going to get in terms of wages is going to be huge compared to where he's on at Crystal Palace. I understand that. But he will have so many more options in the summer as a free agent, a big signing on fee that he would not get now in January. He can go abroad, he can stay in England, he can even have like a bit of a fight between clubs, so the money will get better and better. So all of that, it makes so much more sense for him to stay at Crystal Palace if Palace are happy with that and move as a free agent.
But Ashley Williams sat in your chair about 3 hours or so ago and said the pull of Pep Guardiola is enormous, and even if that's for 6 months, that's an opportunity that you might only get once in your career.
Yeah, and Liverpool the same. But then I would think that City will still be there in the summer for Marc Guehi. Same with Liverpool. Even if they sign another centre-back now, I think Guehi on a free at the end of the season makes sense for any Premier League clubs.
Yeah, and we shall see with this. But, George, you do think that if Liverpool and Manchester City want to get in front of all those other clubs we've just mentioned, you know, still 25, 30, plucking numbers out of the sky there is a great deal for someone like him who, let's face it, if he had 5 years left on his contract, he's probably an 80, 90 million pound footballer.
100%. And I think that's the key here as well. And same for Crystal Palace, because you have to choose, do we lose our captain, our best defender, arguably one of our best players, for free in the summer, for nothing? Or do we capitalise now in a way, find a replacement, because Palace will have already a short list of 2 or 3 centre-backs they can go on and get, like JD Convo that they went to get in France at Toulouse in the summer, and be ready for the post-Marc Guehi era, or they decide to not listen to anything, keep him, especially if he wants to stay, and then move on in the summer.
And Chris, do Palace have a shortlist when it comes to right-back options? Because Daniel Munoz is an absolute shoo-in when he's fit to start. He's been superb. He's not. And they might need cover there. Who are they looking at? Yeah,
look, they had to play Justin Devaney there last night because Nathaniel Klein was also out as well. So we know that Crystal Palace are interested in signing Zachary El Ouadi from Genk. He's a Moroccan international. He's one of a number of options that Crystal Palace are considering. However,